Contrast pricing. So the goal of this workshop is to learn how contrast pricing can help you win more customers. And here's what we will cover: what contrast pricing is, why contrast pricing works so well, and some ways you can apply the principle. So contrast pricing. So pricing can be really challenging element of your marketing strategy. There's a tightrope you have to walk between under and overvaluing your products, and whether you hit the sweet spot or not will have a huge impact on your conversions. There are a number of approaches you can take to pricing. Today we're talking about the strategy of contrast pricing. What is contrast pricing? So contrast pricing involves setting up the price of your goods or service in contrast with the price of something else. So the item you set up as a comparison might be similar to the product you're selling, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. It might be another product that you sell, or it might be something from a competitor. Tweak it. There are lots of elements that you can tweak based on your context. The only vital component of contrast pricing is that the comparison price is higher, preferably significantly higher than the cost of your item you're looking to sell. Using this kind of strategy can be extremely useful, sometimes even persuading a customer who had no prior intention to buying to make a purchase. But what is it about contrast pricing that makes it so successful? Let's take a look at why it's successful. So human beings make a lot of their decisions by contrasting one option with another. Do I want to eat pizza tonight or stir fry? Do I want to go to the beach this weekend or do some decorating at home? Making these kinds of decisions naturally requires you to think about what differentiates the two options so you can decide which one you like better. People usually make decisions by comparing options to figure out which one they like best. Okay, so 4 ways to apply contrast pricing. So now we're going to look at 4 different ways you can practically apply contrast pricing. The best route for you will depend heavily on your context, but in each case, consider how the strategy can be applied to your business. When a customer is deciding whether to make a purchase from you, they're doing similar calculations. They might be weighing up your product against one from a competitor or something else that they could do with your money. You can deliberately influence this decision-making process by introducing your own contrast, putting your product into a context which makes it easier for consumers to evaluate it and hopefully see what a great deal they'll be getting. Using contrast pricing with a decoy. Okay, so imagine you're trying to sell handmade candles for £40. That sounds like a lot of money for a candle, and you know you might struggle to get consumers to go for it. So rather than look for ways to lower the price or explain why it's worth that much money, you could introduce a similar product, another candle, maybe a larger version priced at £80. After customers have looked at your £80 candle, suddenly the £40 candle seems like a bargain. With a decoy product, you don't necessarily expect to sell the higher priced version. Its purpose is to act as a contrast. So this uses the concept of anchoring, which we've spoken about previously, where you deliberately set customers' expectations at a certain level so the lower price seems much lower in comparison than they would if the customer had come across the original price earlier on. The decoy tactic can also work well if you have 2 options already and want to increase the likelihood of customers choosing one of them. Introducing a third item, the decoy, can swing customers to the option that you want them to choose. Okay, so perhaps you have 2 candle bundles on sale. Bundle A contains 3 small candles and a medium-sized candle for £60. Bundle B is made up of 1 large candle, 1 medium and 2 small for £110. In order to sway more customers to purchase Bundle B, you could introduce a third option, a decoy. This option, Bundle C, might contain 2 large candles and a small candle and be priced at £210. Now, when customers compare the 3 bundles, B looks both less expensive than it did when set up next to just Bundle A, and it looks like a good compromise. Remember to make the best use of the anchor effect by starting with your highest price on the left. Consider how you can use decoys in your business to provide some contrast and encourage customers to purchase the items you most want to sell. Using contrast pricing with tiers of prices. So if you start high, the further down the list the reader gets, the lower and more reasonable the price will look. So this is something that we've covered earlier on. So just to reiterate, tiers of pricing can be another highly effective way to introduce helpful contrast into the prices of your products. So where decoy pricing assumes you won't sell many, if any, of your decoy products, tiered pricing assumes that different levels of product or service will appeal to different user needs. So let's look at an example of tiered pricing from a holiday website. So as you can see here, there's 3 different tiers of pricing. So you can't see the price of the double room, but what we do know is that if you purchase a twin room or a junior suite, the prices go up. So from the junior suite, we can see that the price increases a lot more significantly, but a twin room with a pool view is only £30 more than what I'm paying for a double room without a pool view. So leveling up the tiers. Holiday package is a good example of this. A basic package might be a standard double room. The next level up might include a larger room, breakfast and dinner, and a pool view. The highest tier will be accompanied by a significantly higher price, setting the benchmark for all the prices that follow. Although importantly, this high price is justified by an impressive product or service being offered. In this case, it could be a junior suite with a fully stocked fridge and so on. A large drop in price between the highest tier option and the second tier option can prompt users to go for that, interpreting it as a better value deal. So, if you were to make the junior suite option plus £200, most people are likely to upgrade to the twin room for only an extra £30. So, if your goal was to get more twin room sales and get people to pay that additional cost, you could increase the price of your junior suite, which is the decoy, and really bump that price up. And yeah, it's going to have a lot more things, but it's going to be significantly more higher, and it's going to sway people to opt more for the twin room. So always make sure you present your prices listed from highest to lowest. Then, as they move down, the other prices seem progressively more affordable. This is so important, and this is why I'm repeating it so many times, because it's such an important factor. You want to employ the anchor effect by making sure your customers see the most expensive and extensive tier of products or service first. So remember, this strategy works best with around 3 options. Bear in mind that the more tiers you introduce, the harder it becomes for customers to compare the values of each tier, and customers can get overwhelmed. The harder it is to make a quick comparison, the more information they have, and they will end up drawing upon to make their choice, and the less control you have over their outcome. So also just remember, some customers will actually want to spend the money for the highest quality product, but you'll see the increased uptake of the middle tier product as customers compare its price to the highest available. Using contrast pricing in negotiations. So everybody knows the principle of negotiating. You say the price you'd like for an item, the customer tells you the price they're willing to pay, and after some back and forth, you meet in the middle. You will want to start a negotiation at the price you're hoping a customer will pay, because you anticipate that you'll be bargained down during the process. So for the purpose of this discussion, we'll call the base price of your item the price you plan to sell it at, X. And let's call your negotiation start point X plus. So this is your target price with a little added on, so you've got room to negotiate with a buyer without having to go below the price you want it to. So contrast pricing as a strategy in negotiation means taking your reasonable start price of X plus and going even higher than that to kick off the negotiation. We'll call this X plus plus. So once again, you're making use of the anchor effect. Once you've named a high price, Even if the customer thinks it's a ridiculous figure for the item you're discussing, that has become their point of reference for that price. That's the important part. They're likely to come back with a suggested price higher than they would otherwise when eventually agree to the sale at X or X plus or somewhere in between. The customer is likely to feel they've got a good deal. There are some techniques you can use to make sure you're getting the most of any discounts you offer. But there are limits to this strategy, and you need to be thoughtful about where you set X plus plus. It is possible to go too high and put your customers off entirely. You don't want to come across as greedy, and you should always keep in mind that you're working towards a fair price for both parties. Using contrast pricing via competitors. The contrast of the competitors' products will make your item feel like a bargain, and it reinforces the idea of your brand being good value when compared to the competition. Of course, this only works if you're competing on price. If your brand is competing on quality or user experience, a comparison like this may do more harm than good to your overall marketing strategy. So you need to weigh that up before employing this particular method of contrast pricing. Still, it's an important tactic to be aware of. This strategy is particularly context dependent, but it can be highly effective. If your product is competitive on price when compared to other products sold, you can highlight that to emphasize the great deal customers get if they buy from you rather than somebody else. You can employ a side-by-side comparison of your product and a competitor's, starting with a higher price as an anchor point and then going on to describe your own product and its price. Your homework. So your homework is to outline a suitable contrast pricing strategy for your own products. So just like you have now started to look at your pricing and how you can start to influence more people to make a purchase through pricing psychology, I want you to look at contrast pricing and see how that compares to some of the knowledge that you've already accumulated on pricing psychology and if it would work for your business. So just spend a little bit of time looking at this particular strategy, going over this workshop in a little bit more detail, just to see if it's going to be a worthwhile fit for you.